Ladies and gentlemen and ladies, welcome to another week, another episode of the Medicine Ball Podcast. You could have chosen to spend your time anywhere. You rock with me today. Thank you. I never take that lightly. Before we get into it, let my beat drop. Yes, that's right. Welcome to Medicine Ball with your boy LS3 to be exact. And if you ain't in shape, at least your brain should be. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Medicine Ball Podcast, where we focus on giving your brain a six-pack by exercising your mind. Now, exercising your mind means that you actively think about and deal with all situations by first seeking to do anything other than what you are normally programmed and or comfortable in doing. Now, if you're someone who struggles and wants to get better at thinking about things beforehand, as opposed to reacting in ways that require less effort, well, just like anything you want to get better at, it does require training, practice, and work. Now, I'm well aware that thinking about things beforehand as opposed to responding off instinct does require effort. And who doesn't prefer things that are easy? Well, the first step, my friends, can be very easy, and that's to begin to look at all things from an unbiased point of view, which in itself will increase your curiosity in life. Now, exercising your mind won't give you all the answers. You will, however, begin to look at things with more peace, understanding, and patience, while simultaneously equipping yourself with more tools and strategies to help you effectively deal with this thing called life. Now, before we go any further, I'm no doctor, no psychiatrist, no psychologist. I have, however, been diagnosed with bipolar disorder level 1 for 16 years. And to be honest, I got to a point in my life where I was looking at the person I was becoming versus the person I wanted to be. And that, among other things, required me to look at my mental health responsibly. So whether or not you're diagnosed or know someone who's diagnosed or have symptoms or just want to know more about it, it doesn't matter. Maybe you're one of the many people who could just use some tips, tricks, and different ideas to help you get through day-to-day life. Pull up a seat, kick up your feet. This is your family, man. Welcome home, no judgment zone. This week's episode 519. Maybe you can relate. Let's get right into it. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen and ladies, to another week, another episode of the Medicine Ball Podcast. As I'm tightening everything up, if you followed me last week, I was speaking very idly because I was simultaneously trying to record at the same time, give you guys the best quality audio, look at the camera, etc. It was a process. Long story short, I didn't record on the same thing that I used to, record the video. I recorded something separate of the audio. Long story short, the files were swapped and it didn't work out. So here I am back again this week, trying it again. But after some research and diligence, I'm very, very sure that it's going to record properly and the video's going as well. What's going on with you guys, man? I want to get right into this week's episode. Follow, like, subscribe, share, all of that good stuff. But I want to get right into this week's episode because for a multitude of reasons, things that I have going on in my life personally, my mood, my energy, my thought processes, me changing my paradigm, I was going to not do this episode. And furthermore, I wasn't really going to to the people who do tune into me daily and look to me for any type of inspiration, motivation, or knowledge. I wasn't going to let them know ahead of time, like, yo, I'm taking a break, so forth, so on. And in my heart, in my spirit, it was really wearing on me. You know what I mean? And a lot of times when it comes to things that are pulling on you from my spiritual point of view, you know what I mean? It's the Holy Spirit, right? That's working on you and pulling at you, especially if you're a believer. So I'm sitting here in front of my diary, my journal, you know what I mean? I'm thinking about the show. I'm talking to my man Gamble. Shout out to Gamble. We'll have him on coming up here before I end this season. But he holds me accountable. He's like a bro. I'm thinking about my bro. That's the other thing I am excited and do want to mention. I'm about to start doing a drawing because me and my brother did record last week for the episode he's going to actually be on. And being that's my little brother, I just want to go about presenting it and doing the rollout in the best possible way. And the people who are looking at me on video and it's kind of exciting because I know that I've finally figured it out to work. I know it's going to look odd, but hardest thing in anything is starting. But all of that to say, this week's episode is episode 519. Maybe you can relate. And that's the title of the episode. And the thing is, a lot of times I get on these episodes and I speak about things that I may be juggling and the ways that I go about it. And I know that it's overwhelmingly positive. And I do sprinkle in some of my losses, but and I did my intro a while ago, but I know what it says. I don't think that I give people enough insights, and I don't think this society in general gives enough insights into like the good and the bad. I think I made a relation to this, like, let's just use, I'm a Lakers fan. Let's just use LeBron, right? As angry as I am at him right now for his performance tonight, um, he passed the record for the highest score, the leading scorer in NBA of all time. And it's something that just came and went in today's society, and it's easy to do that, but let's just think about that for a second. And I'm just using this as an example of things like how much work did he have to put in? How much adversity did he have to overcome? Right? Because overall, LeBron James don't really have no mess or no drama or nothing bad about him, right? Overall, right? He's been kind of like a model citizen as far as the face of the NBA when it comes to publicity, and even I say for a black man, right? Because he ain't out here cheating on his wife and getting caught. None of that, right? But people don't understand the work and the effort and the losses and the sacrifices that go into that. So I'm just using that as an example, and I want to bring it back to me. I am diagnosed with bipolar disorder and anxiety. And I often make mention to the fact that, and I know that when I step back and look at it from a purely logical point of view, when it comes to being hard on myself, my mom always says it, like, nobody can be harder on me than myself overall when it gets down to the nitty gritty. Now, that's not to say in moments that someone can't say something that might elicit a response out of me or something, whether that or not that response is correct or not. But when I really think about it, I'm probably the hardest person on myself. And when it comes to me, even having this podcast and coaching people and speaking, I just had an event with some of my younger brothers at my fraternity, without getting too much into it, but just even having conversations with them and trying to speak life and love into people and things of that nature. In the back of my mind has always been like, I think that people forget sometimes that I am actually diagnosed. I think sometimes I forget that I'm diagnosed. I have had times where, and just to give you guys kind of like some context to it, like I changed my diet. I started paying attention to triggers and things of that nature. I did my research, but I decided I got to a point where the medications for me and my lifestyle wasn't the best thing for me. Now, I always say that there's other things that came with that, but I am still diagnosed. So I know in the back of my mind it's something that I need to work through, and that's why I'm just being real with y'all. Maybe you can relate that I think sometimes I hold it against people, right? That they don't remember that I am diagnosed. And when I say I hold it against people, the people who are close to me, the people who like know me, who I'm like the most intimate with and tell everything about, completely overlook it. And I did an episode a while back called Mr. Perfect where I talked about this more, but I wanted to give you guys a kind of a day in the life, because if it sounds like I'm everywhere, it's perfect, because I wanted to lead straight into this podcast of somebody who's diagnosed. So let me talk about a couple of things that I still have to deal with. I don't want to say suffer from, right? That I deal with daily. One of the most common that I think most people can relate to is racing thoughts. And the way that I'm able to relate racing thoughts is kind of goes along with some of the things that I do and I have done to combat it when it comes to meditation and things of that nature. So racing thoughts is like, imagine that you're in the rain, right? But each drop of rain is a thought that you have. When I have racing thoughts, which happens very, very often, I just have to be hyper aware of it. And you can hear it sometimes on the podcast, bring myself back. It feels like that. And for my particular diagnosis, and maybe you can relate, when the racing thoughts go, the thing that can make it lead to anxiety or anxiousness for me is trying to address each one of those racing thoughts. And maybe you can relate, because again, like I said previously, sometimes after I've developed these strategies and worked on myself and focused on self-development, I question if I'm even diagnosed with anything, but I digress. So the thing that makes it anxious, because I'm pretty sure people have, the brain is a wonderful, beautiful thing, a lot of thoughts. But I think the thing that people who have this bipolar or this severe anxiety diagnosis, the thing that bothers them is the attempt to try to address all those thoughts. Now, if you can imagine being in a rainstorm and those being your thoughts, and you literally, and the brain is a powerful thing because it will try to address each one of those thoughts, right? And I'm going to tell you guys as I go through this episode, because this episode wasn't written out. This is just me trying to kind of go through the overthinking and the things that I battle with my particular diagnosis. But I think a lot of them, as I get older, and I don't mean to make light of it, like, and it might just be how I look at things, but like it's adulting, you know what I mean? Like I've seen people make jokes and be like, oh man, you say you got this bill due and this going on in this situation. It's called being an adult. Hello. And sometimes I'll be like, yo, maybe it's just an adult. But with my mix, so that's the kind of the racing thoughts that go into anxiety. Another thing that can happen is the highs and the lows. So let's break down the word bipolar, right? When you think bi, we're talking in terms of like, I don't know the phonetic name of it, but unicycle, bicycle, tricycle. We're talking numbers and whatever that is, right? So bi means two. Polar, right? We could break it down. Polar, cool. Poles, North Pole, South Pole, right? So when you're bipolar, it's the opposites, but it's to the extreme, right? Like I watch wrestling, and Dwayne Johnson of The Rock says that The Rock is just Dwayne Johnson turned up to 10, right? So when you're bipolar, it's kind of like mania is you being, we'll call it North Pole, right? You all the way turned up to 10. You feel really energetic. You feel really motivated. And a lot of this goes into my creativity when it comes to making beats or being able to go on these streaks of just immense creativity and energy and focus. And, what goes up must come down, right? So there's the other level, polar, like north, the south, right? And that can be the depression, right? And me, to just be, completely genuine, and it's been a while since it was this bad, but in my worst days of depression, bro, I wouldn't shower for like a week or 2 weeks. And there's some people who won't shower for a month. And when you have that bipolar and you get into and it always seems to work, like, or it might just be my case, but like those highs, you can't use the things and the triggers within the highs to kind of keep riding that out, no matter how much you try to harness. But them lows, it kind of like piles on top of each other. So if you're in a depressive state, like, so for instance, let me use me for an example in my current experience, being laid off, knowing my skill sets, you know what I mean, and know what I'm doing to kind of like find a job. Now, I'm thankful, number one, for God that I've been through this type of adversity before, because it set me up from, and I don't want to use the term hustler, but I use the term go-getter, to where it's just like, through the grace of God, my network, my people, and my situations, I'm able to sustain, right? But when it comes to the bipolar, if I wasn't aware of my triggers and highly aware of it and journaling every day and jotting my moods, man, I could just get up really every day and just like, man, let me just use myself. Even the last, like, I would say 2 or 3 nights, I've been waking up like at odd hours and being upset about how I was laid off. Knowing that I'm changing my paradigm, I talked to you guys about the circle of influence versus the circle of concern. That's something that I didn't even fumble that bag. You feel me? It was literally like Friday. I went on vacation for my birthday and I came back and saw this meeting in Microsoft Teams that said touch base meeting. And I ain't never seen that joint before. I was like, touch base meeting? What I do now? What's this? Bruh, she with that joint, it's like it's so vivid. And that even lets me know that there's still things that I have to work on and work through, but I'm able to laugh about it because, bruh, recording has begun. I was like, oh crap, what is this? It was just like completely blindsided. There was nothing I can do about that. And in retrospect, what I'm starting to learn when it comes to this management level stuff, like in these bigger corporations that are just about the bottom line, and I'm not getting on nobody, but it's just like, if you're invested too much into your team, they're not gonna really like that. right? Like if you not, it's a thin line. It's like they want you to be cutthroat and crack the whip, but do it in a way to where you can't get in trouble. It's like almost like a lot of that management stuff in corporate America is promoting a lot of the stuff in like the 48 laws of power. But all of that to say, I've been waking up and just being angry about it. And I have to, and what I have to do to battle that in order for me to be able to get up the next day and like live my life to the fullest or try to is tell myself like, yo, that's outside of your circle of influence, bro. There's nothing you could have done. There's a recording of her saying, because even she, I'm not even gonna get into that, but she kind of went into some things with me and then she stopped herself and was like, well, really, none of that matters because this is not why you're being laid off, right? It's nothing I can do. So I gotta stop myself and harness that because as I tell y'all, and hopefully as I'm explaining this thing, and if you could relate to them, you can see where I'm intertwining some of the things that I talk about on the show or on my post or on Facebook or whatnot, how I apply them to my life, right? I have to tell myself like, yo, and it's about self accountability as well. But like, bro, that's outside of your circle of influence. There's nothing you could have done about that. Furthermore, if you let this kind of burn and build up into this resentment or anger where you can't really take it out on nobody, because like, what am I really gonna do, right? Like, and my mom always says I'm lion hearted. As angry as I am, bro, the person who laid me off, like if she was in a messed up situation, I don't even have it in me, and that's why I don't like try to get with no street or no violence or nothing, because I know if it really the rubber hit the road, I don't got it in me to dog somebody like that. Especially when I talk to this to other people about it, could be in a situation, and in my moments where I'm upset, not thinking logically, just emotionally, I'll be like, man, I dog her out. I wouldn't, because it's not in me, right? But the whole thing is when I'm talking about the bipolar, right? I went back and I didn't write none of this down. In order to fight out of that to where that doesn't follow me into the next day or into the next thing I'm doing, or to continue to apply to jobs or continue to look for my available, you know what I mean, outcomes and things I can do, I have to fight that, right? And maybe you can relate. And the thing that I want people to understand when it comes to self-development or getting over any tough situation, um, it's not always an open and shut case, right? Like for me, if I don't want to take Xanax and things like that make me feel like a zombie to address what is really a chemical imbalance within myself, then there's things that I just gonna have to do every single day in order to ensure that my mental health is something that I'm always aware of. All right. So what I tried to do in this episode is be extremely transparent with just like some of the things that are going into, and I want to spend the latter half of this episode kind of giving you some real world things that most people go through, and what I do and how my thought process goes to when it comes to dealing with them. All right. So the first one I'm going to talk about is relationships, and when it comes to dealing with difficult people, right? From a spiritual point of view, this is the first thing I got to say, and I say this a lot, and I want to express this as well. A huge, if not the entire, a majority of my transition to being like wanting to be the best version of myself, and even furthermore, like help other people, right, is from my spiritual beliefs. And it's kind of like I was almost like reborn again after I had already been born again, because my parent, like, well, my mother brought me up in the church, my grandmother definitely, and I went to a church, and now I see, as I'm a little bit more spiritually mature, that it is, and this is for somebody who might be going through anxious thoughts, or you might be diagnosed and don't have the means to go get it medically evaluated, or you might not want to go through the things that have to go along with seeing a therapist, which I'm gonna put a mental bookmark on because I'm gonna speak to that second. But for those people, right? When it comes to church, the church that my mother had me at, I realize now that I'm a little bit more spiritually mature that it was a Holy Spirit, right? Because I think I spoke to this like My grandmother, my great grandmother, man, God to him, man, because even my great grandmother just walking around singing hymns and giving praise to God all when I was younger, that really wore on my spirit. So I think that that helped me in a lot of situations be advantageous because of what the work that they put in. You know what I mean? To put the Holy Spirit in me. But long story short, I ain't gonna drop no names, but it's a known church here in Georgia, had a lot of controversy. And when I was a younger kid, something about that particular pastor, and I wasn't even old enough to really speak on it in an intelligent way, but it just rubbed me the wrong way. All of that to say, I had really got turned off of religion as a whole. And it wasn't until I really, and I'm not even gonna lie, is that rain? That is rain. Anyway, I'm not even gonna lie, it was battle rap. It was battle rap that and let me go ahead and explain this, like, right, maybe you can relate. This is just me talking to y'all, shooting with y'all, right? It was battle rap and me like liking words and wordplay and complex schemes and metaphors and being into like verbal skills that kind of reignited my passion for like spirituality in the Bible, bro, because I would catch myself reading something in the Bible and it was always in red. If you don't know what that means, go look it up. But I would always read stuff in the Bible and I'd be like, oh, bars, right? It say something. Come with me and I'll give you a water that if you drink from, you'll never have to drink again. You'll never be thirsty again. Bars, right? So me knowing how to go about certain psychological patterns and habits, and if you're new, this is all stuff that I've explained in previous episodes of like knowing how to gravitate to something that you're passionate about and using that to be like advantageous for you. So it just went from that into, man, you know what? I've been looking at the Bible wrong and just building on that research. And even the way that I speak about it now, like I remember specifically reading through the Bible and be like, bruh, why are they naming all these names? Who cares about all these names in the Bible, bro? Why the heck are they keep telling me where this location is? Who cares? Get to the good stuff. Nah, bro. That's why people are having like, and I'm not laughing at the situation, but I'm just speaking passionately. Like, bro, there's people dying to this day or having religious wars over them same things in the Bible. So you use the things to your advantage. And that what reignited me back into the Bible. And that came with holding myself accountable and going into, okay, how do you want to be remembered? What things does it take to be this type of individual and things of that nature that I really had to think about, do research on, get passion for. And even in that, the Bible was coming true before my eyes. Like, yo, knocking you shall find, bars. So as I started getting more passionate about that and leaning on that and God, like what you want me to do, and the podcast started materializing, it solidified me, and I was able to take the newfound knowledge of the level that I went spiritually and apply it back to my life to, well, things happen for the reason. Knowing my gifts, I know I'm charismatic. I know that I've always had this weird thing to where I can heal people through conversation, right? Not in an arrogant way, but it's just like after you hear after a while, like over and over again, like, man, you know what? I have people I've known my whole life and I just can't even talk to them. You're like, okay, I get it. God giving me something here, right? Um, as Mamba gets comfortable, the spiritual thing helped me a lot, right? So I wanted to say that to bring it into three things that we're going to talk about, how I deal with them with my diagnosis and kind of where my mind goes, and some things that I employ and that you can deal with. But I think it was very, very important that I throw the Bible part in there because a lot of the stuff that I'm going to say, if you don't have some type of spiritual belief or foundation, or you don't want to live in a way that's approved by God, and I could get into a whole conversation about this spiritual thing with the atheist, because what it goes down to at the end of the day is right and wrong, like what side you on, right? But the things I'm about to say, it's very important that I lay out that spiritual foundation, number one, so that you know where I'm getting my credentials from, right? And number two, so you understand where I'm getting the logic from. All right, it's starting to rain outside. We gonna get through it. I'm gonna pray God want me to get this out before anything crazy happens. Let's get it. So relationships. So the thing that I see, and I don't never judge, right? And I know it sounds easy to say, and I think a lot of it is because I've gotten myself to an intellectual level to where certain things I can accept quicker than like the average person, right? Maybe you can relate. But when it comes to certain things, I'm able to accept them like quicker than people, right? And I'm able to look at things logically and realize when I'm being petty and whatnot. And this is really called emotional discipline, right? You got to know all of this stuff goes factors in. But one thing that I see when it comes to a believer side is like people will make this cop out with the love them from a distance thing. And I have gotten into like arguments with people about this because I'm like, well, what is your definition of loving somebody from a distance, right? Oh, well, I ain't gonna deal with them, right? And when I tell people that they wrong, they get mad at me because they're like, this person hurt me. Da, 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 da. Why do I say that? I go to the story about that's why they call him a good Samaritan, right? The story about the man who was laying on the side of the road. And for those of you who haven't read the Bible, I'm going to give you the Cliff Note version, but you really should go Google it and check it out. When the people of his kind walked past this man who was on the side of the road, battered and bruised, and it wasn't until a Samaritan, that's where the term good Samaritan came from, because Samaritans weren't in that time considered good. They were actually an opposition to the Jew, right? But anyway, he was the only person to stop, took the man to the hotel, made sure he was straight, and paid out the debts. And that's the kind of love that you have to have when it comes to dealing with people for relationships. Let me elaborate on that. Bro, if they come to you amicable at any point, willing to out of love and out of righteousness, and this is why you got to have a spiritual foundation, because you're going to need that discernment to be able to tell what's going on, man, you owe it to them to try to be amicable. What's the Bible say? Even thieves is cool with thieves. Even the tax and the lawman is cool with other tax and lawmen. You're not special for getting along with people who want to get along with you. It's a cop out. You're not really special from a spiritual understanding until you try to like people who has did you dirty. You got to stop and be like, well, what did they go through? What was their life like? What were some of their adversities before I just make it all about me and they hurt me? And it's not right that hurt people, and you got to deal with all this stuff without being mentally lazy. But the thing that you should always do is be amicable. And the Bible specifically actually says to be nice to those who wrong you, because eventually by being nice, it will shame them. And guess what? Now let me bring a real world to it. Some people, it ain't going to shame them. They're going to be who they are. But if you listening to this podcast and know anything about this podcast, man, exercise your mind. We always actively thinking. You have to place people in their proper boxes. When people say don't judge people, you be a fool not to judge. If somebody steals dollar bills and nothing else, then you might not want to leave them in a room with a bunch of dollar bills. But hey, I got money, I gotta leave it around. Well, if you the person who more intelligent and know better, bro, you better go get a bunch of $5 bills and convert that joint. See, y'all ain't listen. They only steal dollar bills, bars. When it comes to relationships, you should always be willing to take the high road. Now, the way that I'm able to deal with it, and most people don't realize is, bro, it's gonna be a lot of ego swallowing. It's gonna be a lot of you being the higher person, and it takes a longer time. There are people from my job who were knocked down, drag out, probably tell you at that time that they hated my guts, right? That they hated my guts who, and I don't do it for this, and I don't want y'all, and I'm not boasting, but just like hit me back and be like, yo, I really thought about what you said, and so forth and so on. After I'd have been cussed out and chomped out 2-3 times. You feel what I'm saying? So when it comes to relationships, the way that I realize it is I always bring in the spiritual aspect. Like, bro, you can't earn your way into heaven. But when it comes to being the best version of yourself and you truly being a righteous person, you got to realize, bro, it's a lot of turning of the cheek. All right. If somebody's willing to deal with you, that don't, man, bro, unless somebody, now I would tell you this, if somebody physically harmed you or something like that, that's different. But if it's just an argument, bro, I tell y'all all the time, even with my father who gets on my nerves sometimes, bro, I always turn around and tell myself, because I've trained myself with my diagnosis, like, bro, you only get one dad, bro. You only get one. You only get one dad, bro. You better enjoy the one you got instead of looking for things you don't like about him, bro. You better enjoy it like, bro, he's your dad. That's all you got, bro. You feel me? So when it comes to dealing with people, man, always realize that, those couple of things, bro. It's easy to get along with somebody who wants to get along with you. A little bit harder to, be a little bit more stand-up-ish and take the high road when somebody is difficult to deal with, all right? All right, number 2, adverse situations, right? When it comes to things that shake you up, when it comes to things that throw off your day. It could be a speeding ticket. It could be a flat tire. It could be an argument. It could be you dropping your favorite cup on the ground and shattering it. It could be you walking with your phone and hopping out your car too fast and your phone falling on its face. And then when you pause and you go to pick up and look at that phone and that joint is cracked. What do you do in those situations, and how do I handle it as somebody who's diagnosed with bipolar and anxiety? The first thing I do is bring myself back to earth. What do I mean by that? I realize as human beings in general, we just like kind of dramatic. We're dramatic in general. So I know, and again, the thing that you have to realize, and I want to make clear to y'all is, bro, I'm very open and aware to my weaknesses and my bad traits. I know that I can make stuff dramatic. So for instance, if I drop my phone and I crack it, oh my God, da, 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 da. First thing I tell myself is being angry or upset. Is that going to be advantageous to your end outcome? And I know it sounds corny, but the first thing you have to do, and this goes back to my other episode, responsibility, right? Responsibility, right? Is your response, and I always talk about this Family Guy episode where I can't remember what happened, but Stewie's sitting on the couch. I think Cleveland heard that Quagmire was cheating with his wife, and he flipped the couch over. And that man Stewie was like, "Well, that's a appropriate response, right?" The first thing you gotta always do, and what I always do, is I stop and ask myself, "Am I responding in an appropriate way for the situation?" And is my anger, my frustration, my complaining, is that gonna help me get to a better place? How much energy it is. I take time and I focus on how much energy I'm about to expend doing that. Now, I'm at a point where I can be like, you know what? I do want to be mad about this, but I'm gonna take like 10 minutes to go ahead and be mad about it, and then keep it moving. Right. And what that will do over time, and what it has done for me, is it makes it easier for you to get past little things, man. Like I said, one thing my dad said to me that always stuck out when I was younger was like, yo, you just one crisis away from your life falling apart. But he was an asshole, bro. You just one crisis away from your life falling apart. And that really stuck with me. Like, he was like, bro, if you get a flat tire, if you get a speeding ticket, oh my God, it's gonna throw you completely off. And that really stuck with me. And as I began to mature and get older, I made sure that like I'm not gonna be in that situation to where like I can't get a speeding ticket or catch a flat tire, or and God thank you, or something like that, and I'm in a homeless shelter or something like that. All right. Always judge your reaction versus what's going on, and keep the end in mind when it comes to adverse situations. What's your end goal? If you got a flat tire, you trying to get home, right? Man, cussing and flipping your car and punching the steering wheel, which might pop your airbag out, you're gonna make something worse. That's the other thing I always try to be aware of, because I don't know, man. I think humans in general, bro, we're bad at walking things back. You feel me? Like, you got to know when to stop. You got to know when you've taken it too far. It's like people will rob a bank, and the bank teller, are you sure you want to do it? Yeah, go ahead and go with it. It's like, I think as humans, we be so on go that we don't realize how our actions and our responses can take something small and make it worse. Bro, I caught me a ticket for going through a school zone, right? In Gwinnett County or something like that, right? And the young lady I was talking to at the time had called one, and she was like, I never paid it. Nothing happened, right? Yo, I'm sorry. She was like, yo, I never played it. Nothing happened, right? And I was thinking to myself, like, that's not how these joints work, right? Long story short, I went and did my research, and I told myself, well, getting mad and not paying is not gonna do nothing, because what I found out is, yeah, they're not gonna do nothing about it. But every year, if you live in the United States, I'm pretty sure you have to register your vehicle around your birthday. And if you caught one of them little cheap tickets, because the first one's like $75. Every one after that is like 150. But if you don't pay it, I was smart enough to put it together like, oh, when you go to register your vehicle, it's probably not going to be $75, and you're not going to be able to even register your vehicle without going forward. Now, I ain't trying to joke, but me and the young lady didn't work out. Her thought process was on something else, but it's just like, bro, me getting mad about it didn't do nothing. So I told myself, guess what? Train myself immediately, bro. When you see these school joints flashing and you see these folks zipping by you, just know that they getting something in the mail that you already got that you don't want no more of. Adverse situations, man. Think about your response. Keep the end in mind. Judge the energy that you're putting into your response or your emotions and see if it's going to help you get to the end. All right. That is relations. That is adverse situations, man. The third one is one that I think we are all aware of. We all experience it, but we aren't aware of it. And that's dealing with ourselves. And I'm not going to spend too much long on it because I know I've been rambling for a while, but I just want to kind of give y'all a look into the mind of somebody who has these racing thoughts, who has these situations that if he let depression just take the wheel all the way instead of clinging to God, you know what I'm saying? Like, I won't shower. I would be in the dumps. I wouldn't be able to probably do it without medication and things of that nature. I'm just giving y'all things. And the main thing that I could say when it comes to dealing with situations is knowing yourself and knowing how to deal with yourself. I've said this on a million episodes. I'm not gonna say a million, right? But I've said this on pretty much every episode, bro. I got this idea of the peanut gallery, and that came from when I was in high school. Football, if you could bench press, it was, I don't know, a 45 on each side, like 135, bro. If you couldn't bench press 135, you was in a peanut gallery. So I have this idea on the show about the peanut gallery being people who aren't exercising their mind, right? Yeah, your mind might not be where you want it to be. And a lot of one of the things that comes with that is the inability to like be honest with yourself and see yourself for you. And what happens is a lot of people rather run from what's really themselves instead of addressing it, understanding it. And this is why you really need a higher belief or a higher power or something, because I say this often. Humans, we are horrible judges of right and wrong, bro. Like straight up, I feel like a squirrel has better judge of right and wrong than a human. A dog definitely has better judge of right and wrong than a human do, because we bend it and we shift it towards our demographic, how we was brought up, what we think. You know what I'm saying? It's just like even this whole no snitching thing that we have in the, or I'm not even gonna use the no snitching thing. I was talking to my mother today about like in the black culture, we got this thing where like once you're born into that family, if you're not an asset, you a hindrance. Time you get 18, what can you put on the bills? And it's not even funny, but like just imagine you another race. Now looking at this, we putting bills in the kid's name, messing up their credit. And I asked my mom today, I was like, yo, mom, I done been all the way across the country and back, driven, stopped in these states, stayed there and was able to see stuff. I'm not saying it don't exist, but me personally, I've never seen a homeless like Asian person. And I'm not saying it don't exist, but I want y'all to follow me. Like, that's another thing we do too, man. We don't take stuff seriously but that's another subject. But like, how many homeless Hispanics have you seen? And I'm pretty sure there's some more exceptions, but long story short, there's way more homeless African Americans, blacks, because not even the Africans. People will be quick to Joan, man. I got some Africans who stay across the street, bro. It's a gang of them in the house because they realize that their family is a community. How many homeless Africans have you seen here? They might be over in Africa, but I ain't even seen no homeless Africans in the United States of America. Right? Even with me talking about this, it goes back to my third point. Be aware of yourself, bro. You have to know how to deal with yourself, and that's where I'm at right now. I'm challenging myself on everything that I believe outside of God and the good word. I'm convinced with that. Everything else, I'm challenging it. From how you should go about making money, of course, legally, but just like instead of having to get in a traditional 9 to 5 to being an entrepreneur to trading, bro, it's a jillion ways to make money with this little thing we walk around and look at 100 times a day. I'm challenging what I think about investments. I'm challenging what I'm thinking of, challenging what I'm chasing. You know what I'm saying? Shouts out to my niece. I probably need to get her on here, but she asked me today. She was like, "Oh, you still chasing the American dream, huh?" She's so smart, bro. Shout out to her, man. My family got smart women in it. She was like, "Oh, you still chasing the American dream, huh?"
And I had to pause for a second and be like, am I chasing the American dream? What challenge would I really want? Me personally, only thing I care about, bro, I, I want my family to be straight. The people I love, I want them to be taken care of. And I want to be able to positively impact as many people as I possibly can realistically. That's it, bro. Even if it's just being kind. I think I told a story a while back about me being at PetSmart with Mamba. And I did tell this story. The little white lady walked up to me. Now, mind you, I was in the area that I'm in Georgia, bro. Like, it would just be like out of all the people you could talk to. And this goes back to me knowing some of my guy gifts with the healing through conversation. But random white lady was just like, yo, my dog died, bro. And right there, I was like, man, I'm sorry to hear that. Like, dude, can you tell me a little bit about your dog? I mean, I ain't really know what to say, but I knew that guy had put me in that situation for a reason. And a lot of people ain't even mature enough. A lot of people would let anger or something that really ain't got nothing to do with them, like some slavery or something that, you feel what I'm saying? Let it dictate what they can do in that moment to be a better person to humanity. The world needs love, bro. So the third thing I'm gonna leave y'all with that I do every day is I challenge my beliefs outside of the good word and the good book. I ain't leaving on it. I don't care. We can battle. But I challenge my beliefs. Even when it comes to how I feel about myself and what I'm doing with the podcast and how I'm doubting some of the ways that I go about video editing and things of that nature, I'm challenging all of that. Scripture says to challenge it. The devil attacks your thoughts. You better challenge that joint. What God say about you? He said he know he got the plans for you to prosper and to lift you up, not to break you down. You better challenge the stuff that you're saying about yourself. Yo, he accepts sinners. If you somebody who just think you did something dirty, go back and look at the Bible. I challenge you. There's a reoccurring theme with all the people he uses in the Bible. They're all flawed, heavily. Bars, if you didn't know. From the beginning to the end, whether it be alcoholism, whether it be tax collectors, martyrs, murderers, prostitutes, whores. That's the only people that's used in the Bible, and there's a reason for that. Challenge yourself, man. Yo, that has been episode 519, man. Maybe you could relate. I'm going to leave y'all with that. This was an honest look into my life, some of the things that I go through with hopes that y'all can see. Like, yo, adversity is part of the journey. You can't avoid that. I posted that today. If you're trying to do anything worth anything, you can't dodge the process, player. You can't dodge the crying, the grit, the determination, the getting kicked and stomped on while you're down and fighting back. Maybe you could relate. Do two things every day, man. Learn something new. Lessen the suffering of someone else. Till we meet again next week. I love y'all. Stay up. Yeah.